The funniest memory I have of Christmas.
My funniest Christmas present story. My funniest Christmas story was one year, some friends of ours from out of town had sent presents in the mail. And there were a whole bunch, and they'd gotten there like a couple of weeks in advance. And that drove me crazy. So I had to get into that one box. I had to get into it, and it was a little spaceship. And I played with it, you know? I put the batteries in, I turned it on, I played with it, and it walked around the room and did all that stuff, and then I had to wrap it back up. Well, I didn't turn it off very well. And so in the middle of the night, you started hearing this, and my mother went in, and it wasn't like, it couldn't move, but it was just going like that, trying to move. Got in a little trouble. I was always getting in trouble, so it was no big deal, nothing more than usual.
I got under the Christmas tree, and I unwrapped all the gifts that were for me. And I wrapped them back, and I did the best job I could. And I never will forget it, because it was the worst Christmas ever, because there was no surprise. I never did it again.
Italian tradition, you have fish for Christmas, Christmas Eve.
Fish dinner on Christmas Eve. That's part of the Italian thing.
My aunt decided to get the biggest fish she could get, put it in the oven. Half of the fish was sticking out of the oven. The door didn't close all the way.
The turkey would not fit in the oven.
Half of the fish cooked, the other half didn't.
The turkey was bigger than my oven.
I think I was 4 years old, and I got up at 4 in the morning. I said, I just can't do this anymore. I got up at 4 in the morning, climbed down the stairs, went down, saw the tree, saw all the gifts down there, and there was a big toy box. And I crawled inside the toy box and said, you know what, I'm staying here until everybody else gets up. And I did. It was probably about 4 hours later, and I was getting a little hot in there and a little claustrophobic, but I hung it out.
But there was one year in particular, and I could not make up this story. There's one year in particular that Paul and I had a hard time going to sleep. And our rooms this is when we lived in Charlotte, our rooms were right across the hall from one another. Well, we kept peeking out before we were supposed to go to bed, waiting to see if the coast was clear, to see if we could sneak downstairs. And I would get up, and I remember vividly reaching up for my door, and I was pulling my door, and from the inside, my door wouldn't open. And I finally got it open just enough to look, and Santa had placed a bungee cord from one door across the hall to the other door. So Paul and I were both pulling on these doors. We were both locked in our rooms all Christmas morning. And that was the day that was the first time, and I think probably the last time, that Patrick beat us downstairs, because Paul and I were so anxious to get downstairs. Somebody had put a bungee cord between our two doors, so every time one of us would pull, the other one would shut. We never could get out. We eventually did, but that's a true story.